Everybody, welcome to Moment of Clarity. I'm going to get into Obama's memoir here, the most horrible, the most horrific, the most repulsive parts of it. But first, just want to say at the end of this, I'm going to tell you how to, I'm going to be giving away at least 5 free signed copies of my book. And I'll tell you how to enter for that at the end of this. But anyway, let's get going. So President Obama has put out the first half of his roughly 9 million page memoir, in which he follows in the grand footsteps of nearly every other former president by releasing a tome of flowery writing designed to defend war crimes, deny being the puppet of Wall Street, gloss over corruption, and render the perpetuation of the devastation of the globe to a footnote next to their favorite recipe for macaroni and cheese with a side of fuck you tartar. So I've read some excerpts, which if I were an expert, I wouldn't say expert when I meant excerpt. I've read some excerpts from this book, and I'm not reading the whole thing because I'd rather have a 1,000 paper cuts sprinkled with lemon juice while engaging in an hour-long conversation with Joy Behar about her favorite sexual positions. But I have read some excerpts, and they're as painful as you might imagine. For example, Obama says, quote, "I recognize that there are those who believe that it's time to discard the myth that an examination of America's past and even a cursory glance at today's headlines show that this nation's ideals have always been secondary to conquest and subjugation, a racial caste system and rapacious capitalism, and that to pretend otherwise is to be complicit in a game that was rigged from the start. There are those," he says, "there are those who want to address reality." He throws it out there as, there's those people out there who want to deal with the reality of the American empire. There are those. But no, let's not do that, right? Let's not deal with reality. As if we should just, let's just keep living in a fairy tale while the country burns down. This is honestly like having one arm and one leg in the jaws of a bloodthirsty shark. And meanwhile, you're going, there are those who think I should discard with the myth that I'm actually having a great day at the beach, that I should acknowledge that I've already been half-eaten by a shark, and by doing so, I could then try to remedy my situation by acknowledging the reality of it. But I prefer to see the bright side. I prefer to see the bright side of this. I prefer to live in a world where I'm not being eaten. I've always viewed the glass as half full, and right now I view my body as half not eaten, and how sweet it is. So yes, Obama goes on to explain why he basically gave no attention to the reality of capitalism, the reality of systemic racism in the largest prison state in the world, the reality of a mass system of exploitation that consumes so many lives. His answer is, quote, "I confess that there have been times during the course of writing my book, as I've reflected on my presidency and all that's happened since, when I've had to ask myself whether I was too tempered in speaking the truth as I saw it, too cautious in either word or deed, convinced as I was that by appealing to what Lincoln called the better angels of our nature, I stood a greater chance of leading us in the direction of the America we've been promised. I don't know. What I can say for certain is that I'm not yet ready to abandon the possibility of America, not just for the sake of future generations of Americans, but for all of humankind." What? Acknowledging reality is abandoning a better future? No, it's not. It's fighting for a better future. When someone farts and you acknowledge that it smells like farts, you aren't abandoning the possibility of a future without farts. No, you're opening the ability to do something about it. Hey, it smells like farts. Open a window. Just acting like it didn't happen gets rid of the ability of doing anything about it. Obama, you didn't appeal to the better angels of our nature by never mentioning those things you just said, like rapacious capitalism. I mean, how many times do you hear Obama say rapacious capitalism in any of his speeches? No, by ignoring those, you pretended only better angels were fluttering around, sailing on rainbows and munching on lavender bath bombs or whatever the fuck angels do. Discussing and addressing the harms of our economic system, the pain and misery of our systemic racism, the anguish of unrelenting wage slavery. That is not giving up on the country. That's trying to make it better. I'll tell you what's giving up on the country. Never acknowledging reality. You twat-faced, dick, shit, gremlin, ass hair nozzle. I gotta say, I say that with all due respect, which is none. None is due. Perhaps one of the most disgusting moments in the book of the excerpts I've read comes when Obama tries to tell readers that he really didn't want to be a war criminal. He really didn't want to be massacring people all day, every day. But he didn't have a choice. Oh, speaking of the so-called insurgents, the so-called terrorists, whatever you want to call them, that he had drone bombed for thought crimes, many of them for thought crimes, right? They hadn't yet done anything. Our military just decided they might one day, so let's just obliterate them. Obama said, quote, warped and stunted by desperation, ignorance, dreams of religious glory, the violence of their surroundings, or the schemes of older men. I wanted somehow to save them, send them to school, give them a trade, drain them of the hate that had been filling their heads. And yet the world they were part of and the machinery I commanded more often had me killing them instead. Oh, drats. I added the oh, drats. Yes, the world and the machinery are what's really to blame here. It wasn't him. He doesn't have free will. He can't make his own decisions. And after all, he was only a poor, whittled president of the fucking United States. So he had to kill them, right? Because it wasn't up to, he had no free will. And not only them, but kill a lot of other innocent people the military wasn't even targeting. Because that's what happens, right? Often dozens of innocent people are turned to dust so that our Pentagon can blow up one thought criminal. Look, you don't get to have it both ways. Either you are president and the president is running the show, the president is in charge, he's the big kahuna, he's the fucking guy, he's on the throne making the decisions, and what he says fucking happens, or you're not in charge. It's not up to you. It's a machine that runs without your say. If you were to say, actually, now that it occurs to me, let's stop dropping all these bombs, killing all these people. It's really terrible. Let's stop doing that. And the military would say, sorry, can't do that. Is that the case? Because if that's the case, you should fucking keep talking about that, and we should all acknowledge that our government has been taken over by a fucking military coup, because that's what that is. And in a lot of ways, I think that is what's happened actually in our country. I do think the military runs without much input from the presidency. Trump tried at various times, a few times here and there, to bring troops home, and the Pentagon basically said, nah, don't feel like it today. You run along now and play. Daddy has to talk to the grown-ups. But, and this is an important but, like Jennifer Lopez or Kim Kardashian, but Obama never did that. Did he? He never, there wasn't a fucking moment when he went against the all-powerful military-industrial complex. He didn't question them, challenge them, confront them, condemn them, denounce them, even lightly tug on their little pant leg and go, excuse me, sir, Mr. General, sir, excuse me, could we stop killing people around the world, please, sir, please, sir, please. He never did he? Never would, never will. He was and is a company man. So don't feed us this crap about how you wanted to help the poor kids in the Middle East, but you were just told that the only way you could help them was to drone bomb them in the face. Here's another quote about Hillary Clinton. Quote, in all our interactions, she came across as hardworking, personable, and always impeccably prepared. She also had a good, hearty laugh that tended to lighten the mood of everyone around her. Ah. Yes, she was a good person. She had a good, hearty laugh. For instance, after someone in the room said that perhaps Julian Assange is a journalist and should be allowed to operate freely without hindrance, she laughed and laughed and laughed. It was hilarious. Another time when someone said maybe she should stand up against the sexual predators she's friends with, like Harvey Weinstein or Donald Trump or even her husband, she laughed and laughed and laughed. We all had a good laugh with that one. So moving on to one more. Here's Obama talking, and I'll stop this painful journey in a moment. Here is Obama talking about the Sandy Hook mass shooting. Quote, that was not only the saddest day of my presidency, but when Congress failed to do anything in the aftermath of Sandy Hook, that was the angriest I ever was in my presidency. I was disgusted and appalled by the inaction. That was the angriest and saddest you were in your presidency? Not that Sandy Hook wasn't tragic. It totally was. But 26 people died at Sandy Hook. Obama was president while the Pentagon dropped a drone bomb every 20 minutes of every day. Killing 26 innocent people, including children, was what Obama did during his average morning shit. That amount of blood isn't anything to him. That's what he does when he's reading the paper. How about the thousands dying from our economic sanctions that he supported? How about the countless dying every day around America because they can't afford health care? That didn't make him feel a little more sad, a little more angry, seeing as he had the direct ability to help those people? Seeing as we have the resources and ability to instantly end hunger, extreme poverty, homelessness. We could end all of that overnight if we wanted to. All it would take is someone saying, hey, we're doing it. That's literally all it would take. What about the millions of families destroyed by living in the largest prison state in the world? That didn't upset you a little bit, Obama? What about the fact that while you were president, the completely garbage and totally unredeemable Batman versus Superman movie came out? Holy shit! You were leader of the country when that shit went down, and you did nothing. You said nothing. Nothing. I have never understood why these superhero movies insist on having two people fight each other when one of them could kill the other one in roughly 3 seconds. I mean, Superman could just rip Batman into a few pieces and walk away. He could fly Batman up into the atmosphere and just leave him there to suffocate, followed by freezing, followed by falling to his death at roughly 9 billion miles per hour. The whole fight would last 12 seconds. It's like these X-Men movies where you got Storm hanging out with people like Wolverine and shit as if they matter at all. Storm has the weather. I don't care if Wolverine has claws or his boo-boos heal quickly. Who gives a shit? I don't care if the bad guy can change their appearance real quick. Oh, he looks like somebody else. It doesn't fucking matter when you have hurricanes and lightning. Oh, Sabretooth has sharp teeth and he's quite surly. Storm has tornadoes. What the fuck are we talking about here? Point being, Obama's a dumpster fire. He's always been a dumpster fire. He was a toxic neoliberal president who continued the American empire that is killing both the people of this world and the environment of this world. At best, he didn't do anything to stop that. At worst, he actively worked to further the destruction. And now he puts out a propaganda book to make you think he's really sorry it didn't turn out better. Fuck that. I'll put this book in the same category as Charles Manson's paintings. Not good, not important, but vaguely interesting because it's been made by someone who killed so many people and doesn't seem to care. That's been your moment of clarity. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you'll share it if you think it's important. I have been taking, this topic wasn't recommended by anybody, but I have been taking topic recommendations from you guys, from viewers. So you can feel free to send those to leecampmail@gmail.com, leecampmail@gmail.com. I've been taking those, and I've already done at least 2 of them, I believe, that I've gotten from people. So thank you, everyone who's already sent in. Okay, I promised I would let you know how to. I'm going to give away 5 free, at least 5 free signed copies of my book, Bullet Points and Punchlines. You can get that. You can get the chance to win by texting the word redacted to 33777, REDACTED, to 33777. That only works in the U.S. So if you'd like to apply and you're outside the U.S., then just sign up for the email list. I've never thought of that. It is a email list. The email list at leecamp.com. And I will also enter you in the possibility of winning those. Once you text redacted to 33777, it'll prompt you to send your email, and that is where, once you send that email in, I will enter you to possibly win a signed copy of Bullet Points and Punchlines. Thank you guys for showing up. Let's see if I find a good question quickly, then I will answer it. So let's see if we've got anything. Edward Klein says he loved the X-Men animated series growing up. I absolutely did too, because at that point it hadn't registered to me that Storm could just kill everyone. I know that there's a lot of debates about this stuff in the kind of Comic-Con nerd community, and I say nerd with a fucking lot of respect. Yeah, there's certain superheroes that you can just kill all the others in 12 seconds. It's just, I'm sorry, it's just the reality of it. Let's see. Tony DeMeo says that Obama could have passed gun control with an executive order. I haven't actually studied up on that. I don't know what can be done with an executive order on gun control, but I know that certain aspects of it absolutely can be. Certain federal actions can be done with executive order. But to broaden out from just the gun control thing. And by the way, if you're wondering where I stand on gun control, I believe people should be able to have guns, but I think that there's certain levels. Here's the thing: it requires some nuance that no one ever wants to give it, right? They want to just you believe gun control, you believe you're against gun control, pro gun control. That's it. That's the end of the debate. No one ever acts like there's nuance. There has to be nuance. You know how I know there's nuance? Because I've never met anyone who thinks that everyone should be entitled to their own nuclear bomb. I've never met anyone who thinks that everyone should be entitled to their own tank or MRAP or some shit. I'm not saying they're not out there. Those people are out there. But even people who hate the idea of any kind of gun control, even those people, most of them say, oh yeah, we shouldn't have our own nuclear weapons because some fucking idiot who just wants to commit suicide would just set them off. So that means that if you're for that kind of weapons control, then you already stand for some kind of weapons control, right? It's a sliding scale. It's a gray scale. I support that people's right to have this kind of gun. I don't support their right to have a fucking automatic, Gatling gun. I know that's like the 1920s or whatever, but it's a funny sounding name, so that's why I used it. But I don't support them to have a fucking gun that could take out 900 people in 12 seconds. See, it's a gray scale. That's what gun control. That's what weapons control is. And people who are in this debate don't want to get into that. Yeah, I've never even seen the NRA say everybody should have like their own fucking, grenade launchers or nuclear weapons. So that means we are Almost everyone. I'd say 99.9% of this world is for some kind of weapons control. So I don't think I actually am outside what most people believe on that. I was going to say, in terms of Tony's thought on executive orders, as Donald Trump proved, executive orders can be used to do all kinds of shit. And even shit that they're not technically supposed to be allowed to do, he could still get away with it for months until it works its way through the courts. I mean, he did all kinds of crazy shit with executive orders. Congress wouldn't pass the money to put into his wall, his idiot wall. And so he just he did an executive order like moving money around from DHS to make his wall. I mean, that goes to show the Congress you can run around Congress all day long. The thing is, the fucking neoliberal warmonger Democrats, they like to pretend their hands are tied as if executive orders and signing statements and shit don't do anything. And Congress won't let me. What can I do? I wanted to help the people with the health care, but they're just the Congress. What can I do? They love that shit. And they use it all the time. And it's garbage. Most of the time they can do something. They don't want to do something because they're owned by the same interests that own the Republicans. So, yes, absolutely. If they wanted to, they could do a lot more. Kenneth says Gatling guns for all. Yes, sounds good. Lucy wants a free cupcake for signing up on the email list. I think by the time I send it to you, I think it'd be a little stale. I'm not going to try and pronounce that name. I think the first name's Guillaume, but it's all put together. But anyway, Guillaume wants to know what is your prediction on the establishment spin on the Venezuelan elections? So I think I covered this some yesterday on the Moment of Clarity. If you haven't watched it, you can watch it at leecamp.com. I do these almost every single weekday, except sometimes at leecamp.com. So in terms of Venezuela, I covered it some yesterday, but basically the Socialist Party they won a lot more seats. They took back the National Assembly, I think it's called, from the opposition, and they won overwhelmingly for a few reasons. One is that most Venezuelans do support them. Another is that the opposition is split into many different parties, and they can't seem to get together, work together on much. Apparently 100 parties ran in this last election, which compare that to the United States, where even if you include the parties that are not allowed on all the ballots, like the Green Party and the Independent Party, the Libertarian, even if you include those, we got what, 5? But of course, all except for 2 are not allowed in mainstream media, not allowed on your debate stage, not allowed in most of the discussions about what goes on in our country. So the corporations rule the country unequivocally. They don't have to worry. Either party gets into office, still a corporate party, they're still winning. But back to Venezuela, the final reason that besides most people in Venezuela like the Bolivarian Revolution, I've mentioned this many times, but under Chavez, before the economic sanctions were as aggressive, they cut extreme poverty by 70%. They cut regular poverty by 50%. I mean, imagine that in the U.S., cutting extreme poverty by 70%. We could do it, but we never fucking do at all. The only time our poverty actually decreases is when they change the definition of poverty. That's what it is. They change the numbers that you have. Oh, well, you know what? Making $1 a day sounds like a bit much. Let's change it to if you're making 50 cents a day, that'll be extreme poverty now, and we'll cut extreme poverty by 50%. So most people like Chavez and then Maduro in Venezuela, but on top of that, opposition split up amongst a bunch of people. And the final thing is that America and meaning the United States, and we've done this the past at least 2, maybe 3 elections in Venezuela, we think a coup is more likely. We think we can help crush that country more easily if we claim the elections are not legit, and we believe we can do that by telling the opposition not to run, not to compete, to boycott the election. So almost every election now, the U.S. tells the right wing to boycott the election, and many of them do. Many of them do not. But some of the bigger segments of the opposition boycott the election, so they're not even running in it to begin with, because the U.S. wants to create a coup, and they're listening to the U.S. who thinks that'll make it better, that'll make it easier to create a coup. And yet, whenever you have your mainstream media go, oh, Maduro, he stole it because the opposition boycott the election. It's like, you fucking told them to boycott the election, asshole. America was the one that got them to do that. So what the fuck? But yes, our mainstream media, our establishment continues to put forward this propaganda coming from both sides. Democrats, Republicans, doesn't matter. I mean, Biden's more of a war hawk on Venezuela than Trump is, I think. But they all act like, oh, Maduro stole it. It's not legitimate. It's like, fucking go down there. And there are more election observers in Venezuela than there ever are in the U.S. Their elections are far more legit than the U.S. So yeah, this garbage propaganda coming out about Venezuela is, par for the course. It's what they do every time around. And like I said, I'm giving away 5 free signed copies of my book, Bullet Points and Punchlines. All you got to do is text the word redacted to 33777, and then it'll ask you for your email address to join my free email list. It's all free, and you'll be entered to win the signed copy. All right, keep fighting. See you soon.